Well, hello there, mamas. My name is Mama Modoni or Rangeshandere Kihara. I'm a mommy of two babies. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, but they're almost 5 and almost 3. And I've been a mom for almost 5 years. I can't believe it. Today we're doing a very hard video. I hope I don't cry because I've shot this video, I think, 6 or 7 times and I stopped because of how much I cry. We're talking about my postpartum depression or the postpartum depression that I had. And yeah, just everything about it. In the previous video before this one, I spoke about the 6 years that my life had stopped. Whew, I already feel like crying. Anyway, I shall not cry. So today I talk about my postpartum depression. So in the last video, we spoke about how during my pregnancy, I kept feeling like I was blaming myself for everything that was happening in my life, for the yeast infections that I had that were really bad, for the fact that I didn't want my life to be the way it was. That I wanted to go back to being single and to not having children and just the life that I had where I could just wake up and live and change countries and change anything. And the therapist I was seeing at the time had told me that it looks like I was getting into depression. So by the time I was giving birth, I was actually very scared of getting into postpartum depression. Now with Modoni, what I remember, Modoni is my first child, for those of you who don't know. I went through a space after I gave birth of frustration. I'm sure most of you have gone through that where you're feeling overwhelmed. And I remember one day when I was washing her, she was really, really crying. She was really crying. And I shouted at her, like, what's wrong with you? And is it so bad for you? Is it so bad for you? And after that, I held her and I cried and I told myself I can't afford to get into postpartum depression. And of course, after that, the overwhelm was still there, but I never got depressed. Anyway, fast forward 2 years later, I've given birth to PC. PC was a very calm child. And he was, the way people say, oh, I was stressed because my child cried a lot or had colic or didn't sleep, etc. etc. PC was very calm. And for those of you who don't know, I also help moms with sleep training. So I knew what to do and how to put him on a good routine and how to not keep him awake for too long, etc. etc. So he was sleeping well. My milk supply was quite good or quite okay. I was a bit, that's a story for another day, but he was feeding well, he was a calm child, everything was okay. But I realized, I don't know when I realized this, but I realized I was having thoughts that were not very good. Like I would be holding him and I would think to myself, what would happen if I threw him on the wall? This is like a 1 week old child or 2 week old child. Or what would happen if I shook him? And there's a day I was washing him, and the thought that came to my mind was, it wouldn't be so bad if I drowned him. This is my baby. Like, the child I had prayed for. For those of you who followed me for a while, you know I have PCOS, so I struggle to conceive. I take fertility medication before I get pregnant. Like, none of my babies are oops babies. So this is a child I prayed for. This is a baby I wanted to get. And then here I am, and my mind is telling me it wouldn't be so bad if I drowned him. And one night I was breastfeeding him. I think they're called lazy boys. So my feet were up, I had the pillow around me, and I was breastfeeding him. I don't remember where Modoni was, but the lights were still on, so we hadn't slept. And again, at that point, I asked myself, would it be so bad if I suffocated him with my breast? And that night, I texted my therapist and I told her, is it normal? I don't think it's normal to have such thoughts. And then she was like, you need to see your gyna. Anyway, when this was around 2 weeks old, our house helps, I think at that time I had one, yeah. She never used to stay in the house. So Modoni woke up. I don't remember why she woke up because generally they sleep through the night. Anyway, she was sleeping through the night. She woke up. It was around 11 p.m. My husband wasn't home. And she started crying. Or rather, she was up. I don't remember if she was crying. Then she woke PC up. How much was the time PC wakes up? Because most times I wake up my babies at around 10:30, 11 to feed. So now I have PC. I have Modoni, who was just 2 at the time. And she was crying for her nanny. And my children have this love, like they really love our nanny. And I didn't want to wake the nanny up because it was 11 p.m. I mean, it's way after hours. My husband wasn't home. So now I'm trying to convince Modoni, no, let's just sleep. You'll see Dada tomorrow. She's not listening. So she starts walking down the stairs and I'm carrying PC. Anyway, when I get to the door, Modoni is screaming, Dada, Dada. I'm crying because now I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling like a bad parent. I didn't feel like a bad parent because Modoni didn't want me. I think at that point I was already used to it. I spent most of my pregnancy on that couch there. So I had gotten used to the fact that the nanny took care of Modoni more than me because now my body, I had a lot of pelvic pain. Like at some point even I used to get help to walk and my pain was really, really too much. So she had now gotten used to the nanny. So I didn't feel bad that she did the nanny. I think I just felt bad that I don't know anyway. I was crying. I had opened the door. I was crying as my husband walked in. Remember, that's when he was walking in and I really cried and I broke down. And he was wondering what is wrong with this one. Anyway, I didn't even tell him anything was off. That was week 2. Remember, it was week 2. So we continued, the bad thoughts continued. And then one day after bath time, because I had decided that I was going to be bathing them together so that I can have some time with Muboni. So after bath time, I had dressed them and we have this, like, what are they called? Like a bench at the end of the bed. And I sat there with them as we were doing our evening prayer. And my mind told me, it wouldn't be so bad if you killed them and killed yourself. Now, I think after that, I really cried. And I really felt like such a bad mother because who does that? Like, who has such thoughts? And anyway, so after that is when I decided to go and see my gynecologist. So there's something I didn't mention. In the first weeks postpartum, I don't remember the sequence of events. I was asleep. In my dream, I don't know if it was a dream, but in my dream, so the way that room was set up, the bed was like this. So the head is here. My husband would sleep here, I'd sleep here, and then PC would be here with his bassinet. So in my dream, the devil was in our bedroom. And it was a devil and someone else. Let's call him a devil, the angel or whatever they're called. And the devil was like next to my husband, and there was this person at the end of my feet. And in the dream, this person asked, Sini you, meaning my husband, this one. And he was like, no, not him, this other one. So me. So the devil was like, no, leave that one alone. The person we want is her. Let's take her. And in my dream, I'm trying to get up, but I can't get up. It's like I'm watching myself. So I'm trying to get up, but I can't get up. I'm praying, and I'm just saying, in Jesus' name. I don't remember the exact prayer, but I'm trying to pray this devil away, and it's not going away. So what I usually don't remember is whether the devil came and said he wanted me before all these bad thoughts or in the middle of these bad thoughts. But it was so realistic. And in hindsight, I feel like that's one of those things that people are told, the things that we are fighting are not of this world, but you're fighting the spirits. Because it's so weird that I would be having such thoughts and the devil in my dream is saying, anyway. So I believe the devil was involved in all this, of course. Anyway, so I decided to go and see my gynecologist. I think that was now maybe around 6 weeks postpartum by then. And I had very many episodes of wanting to throw him on a wall, wanting to do. So I went, I saw Dr. Wanyonyi. He's the best guy in Aberdeen. You need to see him. Dr. Wanyonyi at Aga Khan University Hospital. I'd had an amazing vaginal birth after C-section. And if you have watched my VBAC story, Wanyonyi was so proud of me. He was so happy with my achievements. So now here I am 6 weeks postpartum telling him I'm having thoughts of harming my child or my children and myself. Actually, the look he gave me, it was that one of, oh my God, no. Anyway, so I told him I wanted to see a doctor, but I didn't want medication. So he told me, no, I'll send you to this guy, he'll give you medication, blah, blah, blah. It was a trick. So he sent me to a psychiatrist at Aga Khan. So I saw the psychiatrist, I told him what was going on. He asked about my first pregnancy. I gave him the story that I gave you guys about telling myself to snap out of it. So he asked me, so come, you've not told yourself this time. I think I just didn't think I had the ability to tell myself at this time. So anyway, he wrote for me some medication. And then he told me, you take this medication for 2 weeks. If in those 2 weeks your symptoms don't improve and you're still thinking of harm, then we'd have to admit you. Anyway, so I went home. At this point, I think I hadn't really told my husband what was going on because of shame. In fact, I think shame is also part of why I've taken almost 3 years to give this story. Like, I didn't feel like he would understand. Like, you've carried these babies. Why would you think of harming them? So I think I told him maybe I'm stressed. I don't remember exactly, but I know I hadn't told him the exact thing that was going on. So I went home. I told him I've been given this medication, but I don't really want to take medication. And the doctor has said if things don't improve in 2 weeks, I'm going to be, is it committed? I don't know whether that's a word for me in a mental hospital or in a psychiatric ward. So he was quite shocked. I think he asked that we pray first, so we prayed. And then from then on, he kept insisting that I give the baby away. And I rest. So I think the first or the second night, he even brought me sleeping pills. Please note that I'm not saying that you should take sleeping pills. I'm telling you about my story. Okay? So don't go taking sleeping pills and say Mama Mudhoni said. Anyway, so I think I took sleeping pills almost for 3 or 4 nights. So I'd do the bath time routine in the evening. Then at 7 o'clock, I'd take pills and sleep. That's what my husband insisted I do. So that at least now, exhaustion comes out of the equation. Because you know, of course, as a new mom, you're very tired. And being tired really magnifies a lot of these bad feelings like anger, resentment, outbursts, etc. So it was also my trigger for PPD. Rather for more of my symptoms. So he'd insist 7 o'clock, once the baby's asleep, you also sleep. So I'd sleep at 7, then I'd wake up at 10 o'clock, eat. I don't know if at that point I was pumping, eat, pump, and then I'll go back to sleep again. And then at 11 o'clock, most times he'd take PC. Then in the morning, so at night I would do the feeds and etc. Then in the morning, again at 7, but then my husband was so strict. At 7, when PC wakes up, I wake up, I breastfeed, I pump, and before he leaves, because now he now do the diaper change and pumping. When he does that, he'd give PC to the nanny, and then now give me about 2 hours of sleep again in the morning. And within a week, my symptoms had actually improved. I wasn't having the bad thoughts anymore. And I think when I didn't have the bad thoughts anymore, I thought, oh, I was okay, but really I wasn't. So that was, I gave birth in April. Now the thing that I had gotten when I was having all these bad thoughts about PC was love that was, like I kept feeling, in fact I remember one night after I thought of hitting him on the wall, our room had like he was sleeping here and there was a wall there. And by the way, all this time I'm thinking of throwing him on the wall, he's not crying. Anyway, so one of those nights when I thought of throwing him on the wall, what would come after that is overwhelming, overflowing, overzealous love. And I loved my son so much, like so much. And I would sit and ask God, please take away this love from me. Because it was obsessive. And I kept telling God, I don't feel like the love that I have for my child would be healthy for him. And I feel like at that point, it was my way of coping with the thoughts that I was having, because I kept telling myself, if I love him enough, I wouldn't harm him. And if I love him enough, I wouldn't have these thoughts. And if the love I have, the way you're told love conquers all, that the love I have should conquer the thoughts that I was having. And oh, I loved PC. Loved is the word I'm saying. I loved him. So, like, my love would be, I don't know. Anyway, so now it was now praying to God, please take away this love away from me, because I would feel like I would bring up a child who was not healthy. And I think one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest assignments we have as parents, is to bring up healthy, all-rounded children. And if you overwhelm your child with love and you coddle him and etc, etc, that child I don't think would grow up to be a well-rounded and well-adjusted adult. So I would pray to God to really take away this love from me and give me normal love. And I think now that I'm talking about it, I think also him giving me normal love would also mean that I was okay and healed. And that would also really stress me, like the amount of love and attachment I had with him. But with time, anyway, I don't even know at what point whether that went away, because now I love him normally. Like, of course, it's a lot of love, but I love him normally. Anyway, so the bad thoughts went away. Now it was a feeling of extreme love that I needed to deal with. But that was not as bad as the overwhelming love. So once that feeling went away, I even never went back to the psychiatrist because I was so scared of being put on medication. Although sometimes I wonder if I took medication, if my postpartum depression would have lasted a much shorter time, because it did go on for like way over a year. And by then, I still did not realize that I did not have a very good self-esteem. I think I noticed that in 2020. I have notes. Let me just, so that I don't forget things. Now, so after the feeling of Nini went away, now the feeling that was left away was low self-esteem, was feeling overwhelmed. Like I would get overwhelmed so quickly. I also started not wanting to talk to people. Like I'm an introvert, but I feel like with the postpartum depression, I'm an ambivert. My introvert features became even more. I never used to want to talk to people in the morning, including my children. I don't like talking on the phone anymore. This is up to date. I like, if there's too much noise, if there are too many people, like at that point, in fact, my husband could not even put on his perfume in our bedroom in the morning because the smell would overwhelm me, and then I would get very angry because of the smell and the feeling of, it's like I had sensory overload. Since then, this year actually is a lot better, and even half of last year was a lot better. If I dealt with too much noise in the morning, I would have a very bad day. If I picked calls in the morning, if I talked too much in the morning, if Modoni and PC and my husband and everybody was trying to talk to me in the morning, I'd be very snappy. So I went through points where now I started realizing what was triggering me. So being tired, and I started working on my sleep. And one of the things that I did was actually taking Obsessive. I started taking Obsessive in 2019 towards the end. Was it 2019? 2021? No, that was 2020. So I started taking my sleep more seriously. Towards the end of 2020, I started taking Obsessive because I realized also PCOS was aggravating my symptoms. So PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. It has an array of symptoms, some of them being hormonal imbalance, some of them being poor sleep. So I started working on my sleep and being more conscious about my sleep patterns. When PC grew a bit older, Wednesdays when we'd go for date nights, for those of you who followed me for a while, you also know we do date nights on Wednesdays, and I now do my reviews at Date Night Guru on Instagram. Anyway, so on Wednesdays now my nanny would sleep with him, and that would give me at least one night of sleep, which also made my symptoms a lot better. And then when now he moved out of our bedroom, I think that was when he was 5 months, on Saturday mornings or most mornings, I would not now go and pick him, especially after he got to 6 months. So they take him and give him a bottle of milk, and then now I'd feed him later. And the amount of sleep now that I had been forced at the beginning by my husband to get, and then now with time realizing that it was actually helping me, also really helped to reduce my symptoms. So being snappy was mostly because of sleep, and I was really snappy. At some point, I realized, that was now at the point where I started going for counseling, was I was snappy to everybody. Like any small thing would really, really tick me off. My children, my husband, my house helps. And there's a point at which my house helps really got the brunt of my snappiness and my resentment, and I was bitter. I was really a bitter woman. I used to make noise. As in, I would come and find that the cup is here and it's not supposed to be there, and it would be a whole. And anyway, I think I'm jumping the gun. August 2020, my daughter, Modoni, started getting very clingy. Super, super clingy, like super clingy. My nanny had gotten hurt, so she wasn't available. Modoni had gotten so clingy, and I just started therapy. So when I told the therapist, my daughter has gotten very clingy and she never used to be like this. So she asked me, what is your demeanor like? I'm snappy and I'm angry and I'm bitter. And she's like, that is why your daughter is angry, because in as much as you're not shouting at your child and you're not being bitter with your child, she's experiencing how you're talking to your house helps, and she's experiencing how you're snapping maybe at your husband, and she's experiencing the person that you are on the phone, because it might not be directed at her, but she's actually experiencing you through all these other people. And what now I did was I started now being very conscious about making noise. And I don't know why it was so bad that it's like between June and August of 2020, things had really heightened. I started now paying attention to what I was doing in my house. If things were not okay, the counselor told me, if something is not okay, the house, walk away. If you find something has not been done for your child or something has been put, just walk away. Don't make noise, don't talk about it, don't ask a question. Because also the tone maybe I was using to ask, maybe I was not shouting, actually I don't shout a lot, but the tone, I used to use a lot of orome, like a harsh tone, would now make my daughter feel insecure about her home and about herself, and then that would cause the clinginess on me. At this point also I believed I was super ugly. I did not understand how I could be beautiful. And remember I told you all my life, gosh, as in look at this beauty. But at that point, I thought I was so ugly. I could not even appear anywhere with no makeup. I could not even do a story. These days I do stories with no makeup. I even do reels with no makeup. I could not appear anywhere with no makeup. My friends used to call me Shishi Fabulous. I had stopped being fabulous. I was not dressing up. I was just blah. I stopped being Shishi Fabulous. And the more you do something and the more you look at yourself and you feel a certain way because you're not even putting in the effort, the more you believe it. The more you don't show up for yourself, the more your businesses don't work, and the more you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, the more your self-esteem takes a hit. So by June 2020, my self-esteem was paragasha. Remember, I am also resentful and bitter. So who's also getting the brunt of this? My husband. At this point also, I am looking for affirmation everywhere and I'm not giving it to myself. So my relationship with my children, remember Modoni has gotten clingy. My marriage is at a point where imeporomoka. In fact, by that June 2020, I was looking for a house. And I was done. Like, what am I doing being married? I was done. And I was done with basically everyone. By the way, I was done. I was done with everybody. And I didn't realize it was a lot of how I was viewing things. I was blaming anybody and everybody, and I was not looking into myself and seeing what I was going through and what had happened in my life from the year 2014. It was actually one thing after another, and after another that had led me to that point in my life. Anyway, in June, July, I was moving out. Oh, and I was so critical. Because of my husband, oh my God, I was so critical. Anyway, June 2020, I'm looking for a house. And as I was looking for a house, I was like, you know what? My therapist told me, don't leave your marriage from a point of weakness. If you want to leave your marriage, it's fine. But don't leave when your heart and your mind are not strong. Because you will leave, you think you're leaving because it's going to make you so happy. But you're leaving and you're going to add yourself more stress. So do a lot of therapy. And what I decided was another thing that I needed to do was a book called Wisdom for Mothers, which is a Bible study to strengthen my relationship with God. So I did two things, my therapy, and I always talk about therapy and Jesus. That Wisdom for Mothers and therapy changed my life completely. So first I realized I was the problem. Fine. My househelps are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Sometimes my husband is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Toddlers are annoying. Majority of the time, we all know that. Your business might not be working, but in all this, I'm the constant. Like all these places in my life cannot be not working, and everyone is the problem apart from me. So it made me realize that issues that were happening in my life were the problem with me, with as in with those relationships and with those aspects of my life. And with time now, I realized that if I changed myself and I changed how I was looking at things, then all these things could actually become better. And because it all starts with me, I would be better. And I think it actually, not I think, it did become better. And now at that point in August 2020 was now my journey of, my son was almost a year and a half, but now it was now the time when I was getting out of depression. So in the next video, we're going to be talking about how therapy and Jesus helped me find myself, and how I've been able, I feel like I have regained a lot of the years that I have lost, and how finding myself has changed myself, changed my marriage, changed my finances, and my relationship with my children. Thank you so much for watching. Please share this video. Follow my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at mamamodonike. And see you next time, guys. And I didn't cry. Yay!